Young man, I want to talk to you for a second. If you are anything like me, I had this desire while I was in school, while I was younger, after I dropped out of high school, eventually went into a trade school and then started this business. I had this desire. I was like, I want to do something, and I couldn't put words to it. I was just like, there's something bigger. There's something more I want to do. There's something more purposeful. There's something bigger I want to do. And if you're anything like me, being around a group of people who didn't want to push themselves, a group of people who were okay with where they're at, who didn't want to put intention into the actions that they were taking. If you were anything like me, that drove you nuts, or maybe is driving you nuts. I want to share something with you. Back when I was in trade school, I was about 18, and I was going through this time where I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. I wanted to create more. I just wanted more. I didn't feel like what I had or what I was doing was going to lead to the life that I wanted. That it wasn't going to be as grand. It wasn't going to be as creative, as awesome, as inclusive, as whatever as I wanted. And so I started thinking through, like, is it okay for me to make money, first of all? Is it okay for me to have the life that I want? Is it okay to chase for something? Is it possible to chase for something that I can't even imagine? Is it crazy of me to be at a trade school paying for a class to learn how to copyright? Like, is it crazy for me to think through these things? And I got to the point where I decided, you know what? I'm going to chase after the life I want. And I'm okay with the sacrifices that it takes to get there, because that life, I believe, is something that's worth chasing. We have one shot at this life, and I don't want my regrets to be stuck. I don't want to look back on my regrets and there's nothing I can do about it, right? That's regret, right? I wanted to look back on my life with confidence that I made the best decision that I could have at the time, and not with excuses that, oh, I should have done this, could have done this. If this person hadn't have done this to me, I would have been here, right? I want to live the life where I win regardless, where there is not a victim mentality. And if you're like me at all, you may have started taking steps towards that. I think one of the impactful things that helped me was writing down my purpose. And this took me a few months to really think through, like, what do I want my purpose to be? For myself, I wrote down, after months of thinking through, who do I want to become and why? What's important to me? What fears do I have about the kind of person I want to become, and why are those fears there, right? For me, I was like, I want to have a big business. I want to have a lot of stuff, not because the stuff matters, but because it makes life easier. It's cool to have, it's helpful, right? There's enough suffering in life as it is. Like, why would I make it harder on myself? I want to have stuff so I can give things to others, right? Again, the stuff is not what matters. It's who I want to become. I want to become the kind of person that can generously give people stuff. If I want to buy a single mom a car because she needs it, I want to be able to do that, right? And if I'm limited by money, money is my God, right? If I'm now limited by only my heart, one, it'll expose my heart, but two, the goodness that is overflowing from my heart will also be overflowing, right? And the more goodness that can overflow, the more resources I want to be able to have so that goodness can overflow. That's how I look at it. And so after months of looking, well, what are my fears? Well, I don't want to be somebody who's cocky. I don't want somebody whose cup is empty and they're egotistical and think they know everything even though they don't. Or, it's like we're all just, for lack of better words, like monkeys on a planet, right? Now, I believe there's a lot more to it. I believe in Jesus. But if we were to take that example, I don't want to think of myself as somebody more than anybody. So to me, when I looked at what is my purpose, I knew one big thing I wanted was humility. Now, I also know that there's a lot of people who follow, right? I've followed a lot of people. I still follow some people, right? That's why on social media it's called you following, your followers, right? Well, I was like, well, a lot of people follow people they look up to, follow people who have the life they want to live. And I was like, man, a lot of the guys that I'm following have aspects to their life that I want, but not everything, right? And I think that's completely normal. But what I realized is, like, they have an impact on my life. And if I didn't know what I wanted, I might go down the path that they're saying is the right path that's going to lead me to death, right? And so one, humility 2, leading, right? And so in my purpose, my last sentence of it is lead by example through humility. And the reason for that is because of what I just explained, but also that's the kind of man I want to become. That's the kind of man I want to be, the kind of man I want to grow into. And I don't believe that that's a destination. I believe that that's more of where I'm shooting towards. And so I want to become that kind of person. And so my actions are going to be aligned with that kind of person. And from when I wrote that down, moving forward, every time I come across a situation, I've thought that to myself. Maybe not every single moment of every day, but when I come across tough situations, I had it written on a whiteboard in my room, and it said, my purpose. And the bottom line said, lead by example through humility. And so I would refer to that, and I'd picture it every time I had a decision. This is who I want to be. That's right. This is who I want to be. And it moved me enough to push through, right? Now, the first two are kind of part of the lead by example through humility. In terms of leading, there is leading as in I'm doing this thing and you can watch me do this thing, and then you might end up doing your own thing, maybe, right? Just through happenstance. Or there is being inspired by somebody, right? Which you could use it as that, but in this example, I'm going to say inspiration is like a light bulb, getting a light bulb to go off in somebody else's head that realizes they can do something. So I've been inspired by many influencers and by many mentors around me because I'm like, holy crap, that's actually possible, right? So I was inspired to go after these things, right? Or, I hear something that's inspiring to me, and so I'm like, man, I want to go out and create something, right? It gives me this inner drive, this inner will to want to go and do, to want to create, to build, to go after something, to have that drive. So that's the first part. The first word of my purpose was to inspire. The second word was to encourage, to inspire and encourage. The reason I said encourage is because there is so many things throughout our life, my cushy American life, right? There's struggles and there's hardships, but realistically, so much of it is bastardized and this ease of comfort, right? Making everything easy, making everything comfortable can be a great thing. And as humans, that tends to be the thing that we go for, right? As a business, I'm making it comfortable. I'm making it easier to get for upholstery services, right? But with that being said, it's so easy nowadays with social media, with movies, with air conditioning and heating and all of these just luxury things that we have, the fast food, all of this. We can comfort ourselves so much. And man, when I say I struggle with this, I struggle with fighting this comfort daily. I grew up in a middle income neighborhood. Nothing crazy rich, nothing crazy poor. It was just middle class. I was in the suburbs, went to a suburb school, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. And so for me to have these grandiose ideas, I have to push myself out of this comfort zone. And I love that because I don't want to be mediocre. I have this, to me, the average American is overweight, in debt, and I don't know, probably ugly, right? Average is just not something I want to be. The average business owner makes almost no money. The average American is in a horrible condition. The averages are just horrible. Why would I want to go for average? Right? Even in the Bible, it says you're either hot. I'd rather you either be hot or cold, not lukewarm, right? So how can we create this life where I can go from this lukewarm stage into this hot or cold stage, right? I want to be on fire for God. I want to be on fire for building the business. I want to be on fire for leading my team. I want to have this passion to build, this passion to create, and I want to go out and do it. I don't just want to say it. I want to be a man of integrity where I know if I say I will get this done, I have this personal confidence of knowing I'm going to get this done, right? That's the kind of man I want to become. That's what excites me to think about. How can I become that kind of man? And that's not an end goal. That is the goal, but that's not something that's achievable, right? Now, can you become damn good at your word? Incredible man of integrity and hold up to what you say? Yes, but you're not going to be perfect. Now, putting perfect aside, that's what I'm going for, right? I'm shooting for the kind of man who is who he says he is, who's defined character is by God, who's chasing something bigger than himself, who's creating, who's building, who's helping the people around him, who has this drive for this life that has all this suffering in it, who has this drive to create something that's unreasonable in the world sense. It's unreasonable in the fact that it makes no sense for this world because there's all this suffering and all of this pain, and to push through that, to willingly look for the pain and to push through the pain in order to create something magnificent is the life I want to live. Because I want to build something magnificent. Now, different people call it different things. You could call it winning, right? I want to win more than I want to suffer through this pain. But that doesn't mean that suffering through the pain doesn't freaking suck. And that's something I've been having to learn is the suffering through the pain looks different for every person. But here's some of what suffering through the pain has looked like for me. Knowing I want to be consistent at the gym because that is what it takes to be healthy. I want to take care of my body. I want to treat it as a temple. I want to eat healthy. Struggling to wake up in the morning to come to work because I don't even know what I'm going to be doing that day, even though it's my business and I've got to figure out what the hell's going on. I don't know how to think, right? How do I think forward? How do I plan for the week coming up ahead? Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? What about all these unknowns, right? I don't know how to do that. I've never learned how to do this, right? How do I budget money properly when I've never budgeted anything in my life? This is like the thing that I'm going to look back on and be like, thank you, Eric, for spending the time to figure this shit out. Because future me is going to have those skills, and future me is going to be able to build the business faster, better, stronger, everything. Because I'm going through the suffering right now so that he can live that kind of life. That's younger me willing to suffer so that older me can have the rewards. And it's not just for me, it's for my family, it's for my friends, it's for my employees, for every person hopefully that I can come in contact with, that I can share the good news with, that I can buy a single mom a car, that I can do this or that or whatever, right? Like that is what I'm shooting for. And like when I was back in college, I had to think to myself, like, I'm going to think unreasonable thoughts, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to think thoughts that are so unreasonable. Like, who thinks I'm going to go buy a single mom a car? Like, I mean, like, yeah, you can it'll cross your mind maybe, like, oh yeah, like, that'd be nice. But like, who actually thinks I want to do this crazy act? Who actually thinks, like, I want to build this $1 million business and understands the pains that's going to come with it to the best of their ability? Right? I want to think unreasonable thoughts because I want an unreasonable life. I want a life that's extreme. I want a life that's magnificent, that is one of its own, that's unique, that's powerful, right? That's the kind of life I want, so I'm going to chase after that kind of life. And many other people don't see it that way, and something I've learned is that that's okay. But part of my purpose statement, I'll go through the whole thing, to inspire and encourage others and to lead by example through humility. Now it's slightly changed over time, but that is what it started as, and that is the core fundamentals of leading, humility, inspiring, and encouraging, right? So much of that is wrapped in, I want to do something big, and I want to bring other people with. And I don't want to do this big thing, I don't want to make all this money because I want the affirmation. It's not about the affirmation, it's about the life that I want to live. It's about creating something that I want to create. It's about that desire, that never-ending mind game of I want to build this thing. It's there. It's how do I do this? Oh, this is cool. Like learning why things work they do, learning why things are built the way they do, understanding the world in a way that so few understand, and being able to share that with others. That's a journey I want. And if you want a journey like that too, I suggest you start taking action. Take action immediately. Worst case scenario, you're back where you started. I mean, it's like the adage that says, if you're at rock bottom, you got nowhere to go but up, right? You might hit rock bottom a few times. It sure felt like I have, and I don't even have that big of a business. It's a tiny business. I have so much more suffering ahead of me, so many more things of just not knowing what's going to happen. And like, that's okay. But that's the life that I want. And when I'm looking back on this video, especially like for future Eric watching this is what I signed up for. This is what you signed up for. This is the kind of life that I said I wanted. So when it gets hard, when it's tough, when you want to quit, watch this. Because life would not be worth living if it wasn't for the suffering that made it possible to live, to truly live. Great stories aren't perfect. And if you want a perfect life without suffering, you won't have a life at all. Just remember that. All right, I'm out.